Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the March edition of Librarians Recommend from the Hudson Area Public Library. My name is Joseph Cry. I am a librarian here at this fine establishment. I'm joined this month by Joan Bushman, Sarah O'Brien, and Christopher Mick, other librarians here in Hudson. So this month we are talking about love. We've got a couple different types of love we're talking about. So if you're tired after a month of Valentine's Day and all that ooey gooey goodness, we've got you covered, no worries. So I am talking about a classic, an old favorite, the timeless The Princess Bride by William Goldman. It is a perfect expression of all those classic fairy tales, all those stories you were told as you laid in bed as a child by parents or grandparents. It perfectly encapsulates that tone, the style, the themes, and one of those themes is the, again, classic fairy tale romance of the princess, the evil prince, and the heroes who have to resolve all the horrible complications that arise from the evil prince, of course. Now, if you've not read the book, there's a decent chance I'd say that you've seen the movie. The book is absolutely worth reading if you have not read it, even if you've seen the movie dozens of times. I can't tell you how many times I saw the movie as a child. And when I read this a few years ago for the first time, it blew my mind. It is one of the funniest, most quotable books I have ever come across. Almost every page, I swear to you, has something that will stick in your head that you can easily throw around, just like the movie. It is wonderful. It is a warm blanket in book form. I highly recommend it. So that is The Princess Bride by William Goldman, once again, just in case you forgot. Now, Joan is going to continue.
All right. The book I would like to recommend this month is called Such a Fun Age. It's by Kylie Reed. It's a Reese's Book Club pick. Came out last year, really popular. It doesn't quite fit in the theme of love in that it's not really about romantic love, but it's a really great book. It starts out as the story of a young woman, Amira, who is a underemployed young woman who works as a nanny part-time, and she has another part-time job. So it's the story of her life, and it's the story of the people that she works for also. It begins, this isn't giving too much away, it begins with her being called on to take the young girl that she's nanny of to the grocery store at a inopportune time, late at night. And when she takes her there, it's like midnight. She's dressed inappropriately because she was out at a party. She's a young Black girl, and the girl that she cares for is a little white girl, and she is accused by a customer in this grocery store and the security guard of kidnapping this child. So the story goes on from there with all the fallout from that. I don't want to give too much away, like I said, but there's a lot going on in this book. It talks about privilege, racism, good intentions, or maybe not so good intentions, friendship, the choices that we make when we're young. There's a bit of romance, but not necessarily. I don't know. The most important love in this book is the sweetest love of all, which is the love of a child. So I make it sound probably more serious than it is. It's really not overbearing. It's pretty fun to read. It goes really quickly. There's lots of drama that keeps it going. It reminds me quite a bit of Little Fires Everywhere, which was a really popular book and TV series. So just a great read. I highly recommend it. Again, Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. All right. Next up is Sarah.
All right. Well, My book selection is completely different from everybody else's. I went with the theme of when I think of love, what do I think of? I love bread. So I decided to review the book, The New Artisan Bread in 5 Minutes a Day. And it is by, Jeff Hertzberg and Zoe Francois. And I'm not completely through this book yet, but I am really enjoying it. I like anything that I can do in a short amount of time. So the idea of making bread in 5 minutes a day, I love that they talk about the science of making bread and why it works without the traditional kneading, and bread making can be really involved. And so I have not tried it yet, but I can't wait to try it because I love bread recipes that taste like artisan bread and taste like the bread that you would pay a lot for in the grocery store. But it's actually quite inexpensive to make on your own. And when you can do it in 5 minutes a day, that's something that I love. So I am recommending The New Artisan Bread in 5 minutes a Day book.
And I guess that leaves me. So for my pick, I went a different direction as well, a little bit of a stretch in another way. This is Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. So you may have known of his first book in the series, Ready Player 1. So this is a sequel to that book. And I was intrigued by it because it kind of ties into a lot of what's going on today in our lives with being on Zoom meetings and more email and more text messaging and kind of being in a virtual environment where we're connecting with people. And a lot of the characters are continuations of the characters introduced in Ready Player 1, the first book. So not to say too much to ruin the story for you, I'll try to keep this as vague as I can. But if you don't want to know anything about Ready Player 2, you may want to plug your ears for a second. But the love aspect for me is there's another quest that the characters have to go on to find these different items in the virtual world that they explore. And the only way they're able to complete this quest is by the love of their friendships with each other. No one person can do it by themselves. So the only way, they have to find 7 items in this challenge. And the only way they can pull off finding all 7 in the time they have is really by relying and trusting on each other in these deep friendships, like almost familial relationships they've developed. So there's that aspect to it. There's also the kind of classic boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy tries to get girl back kind of structure in the story for this, which is kind of a classic. And then the new twist that tied into that virtual element we're all going through now is there's a character in the story that loses someone he loves in the real world, but there's a digital copy of her brain, all of her thoughts and feelings and memories alive inside this virtual reality. And so it kind of introduces the concept of, what is the essence of a person, and could that person still be there for you in a sense if there's a digital copy of all their thoughts and feelings and emotions stored there that you could interact with in a virtual way, talking and almost like what we're doing, now with talking on Zooms and chats and virtual messages and things like that. So it was just interesting to think about in a different context, that kind of other layer in the virtual world for it. So those are the aspects that kind of got me thinking about love, which is our assigned topic for this book. And so again, it's Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. And for those that have asked, the story is self-contained. You do not have had to read Ready Player 1 to kind of enjoy or understand the story. It obviously would help kind of enrich it and more backstory on the characters, but it is kind of structured in a self-contained way. So you don't need to have read the first one to enjoy this one. And that was my pick.
Thank you, everyone, for your recommendations. And thank you, dear viewer, for sticking around and listening to them. Hope very much that you found something that piques your interest, or if not, maybe we sent you in a different direction to think about love in a different way and find some books that stir up those emotions within you. So thanks for watching. Have a nice month. Enjoy the coming spring weather.